Good morning, everyone. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. This is something we did about 6 years ago called Transitions Learning Collaborative. It was sort of an outgrowth of the work that happens through our multidisciplinary team that meets in a room down the hall the second Monday of each month, where we do some education and updates, and also have the opportunity to staff particularly challenging cases. And many of the people in the room today are part of that group as well. So we just thought it would be a good idea to think about revisiting this, because it's been 6 years and lots of things have changed. There are lots of new people working in the field in Harford County, and we did have that little thing called COVID that changed the way things work for a lot of us. For some of us temporarily, and then there were other changes that were more long-term. So this is the first of a series of monthly presentations. Next month we'll have our friends from Adult Protective Services presenting, and we have, I believe, housing coming up after that, and a whole series of good things coming your way to give you an update and an overview of all the things that are happening in human services and social services organizations that serve vulnerable adults across the county. I guess I should introduce myself. I think everybody here kind of knows me, but I'm Karen Winkowski. I have the pleasure of being the administrator for Harford County Office on Aging. Been with the organization for 17 years, and every day is a new day, and every day is never the same as the day before, much as it is for all of you. In human services, we don't really expect a lot of monotony. So today's presentation will feature an overview of all the things that the Office on Aging can provide, and also talk about some of the things that we don't provide, so that hopefully we can provide you with a good look at all the services that are available to youth and clients through our office. What we'd like to do, just to make things easier, is to, after each section, the presenter will pause and ask if there are questions. So if you would wait until the end of each section to ask your questions, that would be great. You may have noticed we are videoing, recording this session, and we're recording many of the sessions. If you participated in the first series, you know that that series still lives on our website, and the PowerPoints are up there as well. And we want, if we're going to do this, why not have this have more of a life than just the people who are in the room today. So this will be a tool if you have new staff that are hired, or you need to go back and revisit something, to have a resource for that. So to that end, when you came in, all of you should have received a notice just saying it was a release, a waiver for photography and videography. If you didn't get that or didn't see it and check that box, please make sure that you do. The other thing I wanted to mention is that you should have received a quick survey that has to do with transportation. I've had the great pleasure of working with a local physician and his family and a local nonprofit, and they are working to establish another rideshare program in the county, which is greatly needed. And so I ask your participation on the survey today as a way to help them gather some data so that they can go after some additional funding. They are hoping to launch this summer. And it'll be a volunteer driver, small fee-based rideshare type program. So if you could make sure that you complete the survey, and you can just leave them in the middle of your table, and we'll pick them up. I also wanted to mention that if you are going to ask a question, I know you all will love this. It'll be your favorite thing about today. But on the table, there are mics. Can somebody hold up a mic just so we can, right there in front of you guys? So the little black, almost look like a computer mouse. There's a button on there that you can push so that if you are speaking, we can hear the question, because this room has a lot of ambient noise, and if you're at the back of the room, it's very hard to hear at the front, and vice versa. So please, if you are going to ask a question, make use of the mic. Okay. Also, just because it's Monday and we have to keep things interesting, we're going to go a little bit out of order because we had some unavoidable circumstances this morning. So I'm going to go and jump in, but then we're going to skip out of order, and I'll tell you which slide we're going to skip ahead to. So again, welcome everybody. We're so pleased that you're here. I'm going to begin by talking about, and I made this print really small to challenge my bifocals, so we're going to see how that goes. So who does the Office on Aging serve? We serve individuals age 55 and older at our senior centers. We will have a presentation on our centers and all the specifics of that. But you may register for senior center activities. You do need to go to the center to register, but you don't need to be a Harford County or a Maryland resident, and Suzanne will go into that a little more later on. If you're focusing on our main office services, generally people must be 60 and older, and for some programs 65 and older, and that includes information and assistance services, referral services, triage services, our state-funded service programs, and our case management services. And Kathy will go over those programs in just a little while. Harford County citizens under the age of 60, we also do provide services for if they are a younger person living with a disability, and those are primarily information and referral services. So we don't have the depth and breadth of services for that population that we do for our older adults, but we do provide information and referral. So a quick list of the things that we provide in our office. We have our senior centers, we have our outreach services, our waiver program, and actually I should have probably changed that. It should say supports planning program, and Patti will talk a little bit more about that. Our long-term care ombudsman program, our guardianship program, our insurance assistance or SHIP program, our wellness and nutrition programs, senior care, and also our senior assisted living subsidy program. So now we are going to skip forward to the bottom of page, middle of page 5. And you'll see a picture of our office, formerly known as the Convent for St. Margaret's. There in the middle of the page. It's a great old building. Okay, so we were determined to be a Maryland access point. This was a move that the state made probably about 10, 11 years ago as part of Medicaid expansion. And this change was something that allowed us to fit into the bigger picture of Medicaid in a slightly different way, and allowed us to be able to receive some reimbursement for some of the services that we provide. So what is Maryland Access Point? Harford County Office on Aging is designated as the MAP site for Harford County, and that means that we're the gateway, the one door into services. So that means that we're working with caregivers, professionals, individuals, family members, older adults, and adults living with disabilities to address their long-term care needs. And so that basically means that when we triage a call, we are trying to connect that individual to the appropriate person within our organization that can help them with whatever need they have presenting. And we'll go into more detail about that a little bit later. It also means that we are one of the first stops on the way into Medicaid long-term care services. But we'll talk about that a little bit more today, but we're going to have a whole presentation in depth on Medicaid in September. But I do want to clarify, we are not a Medicaid agency. We don't run Medicaid. We can't make Medicaid do anything. We aren't processing applications. We are basically just doing what's called level 1, and that's sort of what gets you in line. So we'll talk a little bit more. Lisa will talk about that a little bit later today. But I can't stress enough that we don't run Medicaid. And those of you who work a lot with Medicaid will know why I say that. So our services include information, assistance, and referral, our senior care program, our National Family Caregivers Support Program, our waiver support planning services, our senior assisted living subsidy, the guardianship program. We have a newly designed and just launched wellness and nutrition team that is doing a great job with programming. You'll hear about that as well. And our state health insurance program and our senior Medicare patrol. And you'll hear about all of these things in more detail shortly. What are we not? We are not 911. We do not provide direct transportation services. We can make people aware of what they are, but we don't provide transportation. We can't provide emergency housing. We're not a moving or delivery service. We are not medical or legal professionals. We're also not available 24 hours a day, and we can't make someone do something. We can't make someone stop driving. We can't make them go to a nursing home, take medicine, take a shower. We can't do any of those things. And for many of you that work in this field, you're used to this kind of, hope that people think that you can provide these services. So many of you know exactly why we say we aren't these things, because we can't provide those things. But we get those phone calls asking us to do those things quite a lot. Right now we're going to skip on, and I'm going to ask Patti Brown to come up, and we're going to go to the bottom of page 7 and pick up with slide number 27.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? As Karen said, I'm Patti with Harford County Office on Aging. I manage the guardianship, the waiver programs, and the senior assisted living subsidy programs. By my side is my trusty sidekick, Lisa Anderson. Lisa also helps with, she does a lot of the stuff, and she can probably explain a little bit too, but the level 1 screens, she is our MAP administrator. Let's see, I have other team members out here. If you can kind of just do like the little waves. I have Emily Bowers-Kogut back there as part of our team. She with guardianship waiver. We have Ashley Yost, also works mostly with guardianship, oversees the subsidy program. And we have Barb Herget. She is our support planner for the waiver program. So I want to talk about the long-term support services in Harford County, otherwise known as the waiver program, the long-term services that hopefully are, the other programs that we're going to talk about today are done in order to kind of prevent these long-term outcomes, I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm so sorry. So we wanted to just basically talk about waiver programs are at the end of what services we have, trying to prevent that kind of stuff with our senior care outreach department. So as Karen said, the Office on Aging is not the administrator of the waiver programs. What we do is mainly we do the level 1 screen, which mostly Lisa does for the younger folks. Our outreach team does the level 1 screens. And what that means is basically they're doing a survey for folks to see what kind of services they need in the home. Let's see. So the Maryland Department of Health is actually who oversees the waiver programs. And as Karen said, in September,
we don't do that.
In September, there's going to be a little better. I'm so sorry. In September, there's going to be more of a overview of the waiver programs in Maryland. But as far as our office goes, we do the level 1 screen, we do support planning. And what that means is Harford County, all the AAAs in Maryland are obligated to provide support planning services for the waiver. And we are full the whole time as far as we're capped at 35. So we've got 35 people that we're responsible for with the waiver programs. To that extent, we cannot, if there's a problem with the state office, we can't change that. We have just as much difficulty as some of your other folks that are trying to get an answer as far as why things are taking so long. Right, because we've got folks that might, when they've had their level 1 screen, might score like a priority 1, and they're still waiting. They could be waiting 6 months for a year. As Karen said, I can't believe it's 4 years that we've been talking about COVID, but COVID really did cause some problems with the waiver program. During that time, we were in a public health emergency. So services got extended, renewal dates didn't happen, so people were just kind of sitting there because they didn't have the staff, they were not in the office to do things as far as stay ahead of the redeterminations, and they wanted to make sure whoever needed those services were getting them during that time. But now that they are coming out of the public health emergency, they're realizing people that may not have, that were getting services should not have been getting services. So there's been quite an uproar. Quite a few people have been disenrolled from the waiver programs. And we've been trying to help figure out what's going on. We get weekly updates from the state as to what the status is. We've had a group of people that were disenrolled from, like they had a 12/31 disenrollment date for no reason. So that's been quite a challenge for us. Let's see.
Have you all had any clients who have lost Medicaid just randomly? It's very, very upsetting. So we spend a lot of time trying to figure out all the things that we cannot control because we are not MDH. We are the Office on Aging. So we start the process, and then there's another program that handles our nursing home residents. But the waiver is it's a very big, robust program. How many of you have heard the term COW or CO waiver or Medicaid waiver, blah, 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 it goes on and on. That's the umbrella for this program, but there's many different types of waivers. And the reason it's called a waiver is because the normal and typical rules of Maryland Medicaid are waived. So, hence the name. It is a very complicated, it's not easy to get in. Seems easy to get out, apparently, because we've got this huge rollout of folks who lost services. And now they're coming back and saying, oh, wait a minute, maybe we got to reevaluate this. So it is coming, it is slow. And if basically, if you have any questions, please contact us. Our number is 410-638-4283. We will try our best to walk along with you to try to figure out this complication. It is upsetting, and that's pretty much the bottom line. We do have contacts at MDH and MDOA that can sort of help us navigate. We can't make all the answers, but we'll try to find out and help.
We also have had some challenges with our providers, our Medicaid providers, waiver providers, that with the public health emergency, and there was also a new system that they put in place, the ePrep portal, which was very difficult for some of our providers to navigate. And you're working with assisted livings that are generally used to providing hands-on care. They're maybe not so technologically savvy, and we've really had to try to help get them connected so that they can get paid. And that's a huge, at least we see a huge gap in Harford County, is having providers that are still willing to participate with a waiver, because there's been such a challenge with just the payment. We might have someone who's on services and then suddenly the provider doesn't get paid. So of course they call us first, and we can't see into their system. We can try to reach out on our end, but unfortunately we don't have the ability to see what the problem was to get things that made things that they wouldn't get paid. So that's kind of our challenge, and I know I'm rambling. I apologize, folks, because we're out of order, and I hopefully I'd had some of the other background on things. But are there any specific questions about waiver services? Hopefully we can fill in the gap with the other slides and presentation. Yes. So actually, the providers we're referring to are the waiver providers that might be assisted livings. We have agencies that provide,
Personal care.
in-home care, personal care services, adult medical daycare. We've seen some folks that are having, there have been difficulties with them getting paid for certain clients. But, so this is specifically to the community providers, not the physicians or that, if that answers your question. Any other questions? And I apologize. Hopefully we made some sense there. Lisa's got some other information she wanted to talk about for the long-term care entry in the level 1. So did you want to?
Yeah. So the level 1, many of you have in the past have called me directly or made a referral for a level 1. And the level 1 is a little barometer of where these folks are, and financially and medically. And the reason that the level 1 is so important is because it really is the entry point into all waiver services. We conduct the level 1, outreach staff can do it. I do the younger disabled, and it's a great tool to be able to assess on a quick basis how to, what they need specifically. So there are many different, if you want to think of the home and community-based options waiver as the big umbrella, there are many different types of waivers that come under this. There is community first choice, there is increased community services, there is the autism waiver, there is the CPAS,
Right.
community personal assistance.
I think we counted, and there are like 12 different
Right.
waiver programs in Harford County. So it's in our office, we mainly serve the community options waiver, the CFC, the CPAS, and the ICS, the increased community services.
There are a lot of different waivers, and that whole home and community based options waiver is like that big umbrella, and they just fall underneath that. So again, if you have, more questions about that, please don't hesitate to call us. But that level 1 starts that process, okay? So that's folks who are in the community. So who's a good candidate for a level 1? I guess that's the next slide. Who is that? Who's that person? And what do they look like? Well, quite frankly, it could be, anybody who needs help. Because you gather a lot of information on that. So there is a referral form for that specifically. It's like a one-sheeter, but we take a look at that. We put them through that process. It is the state says it's a 30-minute phone interview. That's not true, because people want to tell their story. So sometimes it does take a lot longer. But that one sheet kind of guides us, and it really helps us to gather the information necessary from these individuals to get the best assessment that we can. And I always tell folks when I'm doing this, look, I understand everybody's got good days and bad days, and there's different medical conditions that will warrant that. I'd like to know what you're doing on your worst day. That's how we can really deeply understand the need. And, so that begins that level 1 process. That gets into the long-term services and supports database. It gets fed through an algorithm, which again, we don't control. And then they are assigned a priority code. That priority code will indicate when the invitation to apply happens. And again, we have no control over that. Yeah, there is a financial criteria associated with this, and it's really important that we can capture all of that, assets and the income into the home. So these are the criterias that we actually need to know, and it's good that you all can report that to us, or at least give us the understanding, because it's really tough to go to somebody in the state of Maryland and say, "Hi, I'm Lisa from the Office on Aging, and I'm calling because I was referred by my colleague at the health department to do this assessment." And they go, "Who are you and what do you know?" It's a very difficult entry. So the fact that you all do that gives us that leg up.
So I have an example, and April, tell me if I'm wrong. I think years ago, you referred someone over to the Office on Aging, and it was kind of like you had referred, and we were doing the screen, and it was, the state wanted to know who was going to provide that information, because the person couldn't provide, they didn't have a guardian, or, to that extent. We were told, though, it kind of is like a village. It takes a village to get this information sometimes. So if you as a caseworker are referring someone over for a level 1 screen, because what they're looking at is, if a person is strictly on medical assistance or receiving SSI, that puts them in a specific category where they might be able to get services sooner than someone who might have a little higher income and is only eligible for the community options waiver. So again, Karen said, we're going to have someone in September that can break that down a lot easier. And we do have, the Maryland Department of Aging gives us an income-based sheet for what programs are available to who. But that, when we're doing that level 1 screen, we're asking them, what kind of income do you have? Are you on medical assistance? Are you on Medicare? Those are the things that kind of like guide us where to filter that person to get the next services that they might be eligible for.
So, and then after, I always like to laugh. I do the beginning and the end of the waiver. So if you're a community member that is in the nursing home, I will come out and visit, and I will help you fill out the application, and I'll explain what getting services in the home will do, and hopefully we can help them to graduate out of the nursing home into their own community. And that program's called Money Follows the Person. And so it's a way for our nursing home folks to be able to leave the nursing home and go back into their own communities, hopefully surrounded by their friends and family. And they can, because some folks don't always need that nursing home skilled labor of care. They can do some things on their own, or some things with supports. So that's the MFP, that's the quick version of the MFP program.
They changed the name. So for a long time, it was called options counseling, but the state likes to use options counseling as different criteria. But now it's Nursing Facility Program Education, NFPE.
Yeah.
I believe it is. So that's where Lisa will get a call from a nursing facility and have them come out and have her come out and just try to see what they're eligible for and try to get them out. And that again is that waivers. You're waiving the nursing facility level of care to get back out to the community. So, any specific questions before we step down?
I just was wondering, would it be better if the client's capable of completing the level 1, would it be better for the client to do it versus the caseworker?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Maggie's question was if the person is eligible for or is capable of answering the questions for the level 1, should they do it? Absolutely, because we want to hear what they have to say. But if there's supplemental information that, I know if you ask my mom, she can tell you she can do all kinds of stuff, but I know she can't. So it might be something where we might need supplemental information. So yeah, again, it takes the village sometimes to help get our folks the resources they need. So. Or if you wanted to jump off in this meeting, I think that's. We could do this now if you want. Okay. We'll let her do it.
I just wanted to mention a couple of other things, especially about the level 1. It's very easy to see, based on the fact that level 1 is sort of the first step into Medicaid eligibility for the variety of programs we talked about, why people in the community think that we have some level of control. Because if they start with us, that single point of entry that it's been determined that we are, and that we very much try to be, it sort of gives people false a false sense of direction that we are in control in some way, shape, or form of this program because we start them on the road. So the other thing that lends itself to that, and I'm sure many of you have had this experience personally and or professionally, when you try to call about Medicaid services or to see where you are on the wait list, if you get a person, they generally have to call you back, but the likelihood that you'll get a person is very, very, very slim. So we answer our phones every day. We have a live person that answers our phone between 8 and 5, and the only time you're going to get a recording is if every incoming line is busy. So that means that people who are frustrated with what they can't find out from other sources frequently do call us. But we don't have any control over the system. And Medicaid is, as Patti said, a very broad umbrella, not just with regard to waiver-related programs or long-term care medical assistance. There's the whole other aspect of Medicaid that has to do with health insurance. You know, I think when we get to talking about Medicare, and we'll have a very much more in-depth presentation about Medicare later in the year, at least we have the alphabet soup of Medicare. We have Part A, Part B, Part C, Part D, and that at least helps us to categorize all the varieties of Medicare, or a lot of them. And in Medicaid, it's not like that. So that's why we've broken that out into a separate presentation for all of you in September. It will be very complex, so we'll have coffee, lots and lots of coffee. Because if you've dealt with Medicaid at all, you know there are a lot of variety of things named Medicaid, and they're all very different. And sometimes they're connected and sometimes they're not. But they're all very complex, and I know most of you have had challenges in the arena of working with Medicaid and one or all the aspects of the things Medicaid is. Patti mentioned that all of the area agencies, she said AAAs, that's area agencies on aging or offices on aging. There are 19 across the state, one in every jurisdiction and regionally on the shore. And when we became Maryland Access Points, the level 1 became part of our responsibility. And really all that does is put somebody's name in the queue on the long-term supports system database. We don't have any control and cannot make heads nor tail of the algorithm that works behind the scene to score people. I do understand that there is work being done to take another look at the level 1, so we'll have to learn all the things we know or don't know all over again. But I do want to mention, please discourage your clients from calling us every other week and asking us to do another level 1. It's not helpful. It's extremely time consuming for us. It's very frustrating for the individual because if they've scored the highest priority they can score, they're not helping themselves by redoing the level 1. It's not going to move them up in line. It's not like if you call and you're number 10 in line and you hang up and you call back and then you're going to be number 4. It doesn't work that way. And we discourage you from doing the same thing. The only time you should be really referring for another level 1 is if it has been a significant amount of time. What do you usually say?
Or a significant change.
Yeah, but what time-wise?
We can do them every 90 days.
All right, I'm going to say every 6 months. Because we have a lot of people calling asking for that service. But if there is a change, if there's a fall, if there's a cognitive change, if there's a stroke, if there's some significant health status change or cognitive change, yes, you should call and ask to have another level 1 done. And as Lisa and Patti said, it is a good thing to have other input. So if there is a family member that's involved, you know, and you want to give mom or dad or grandma or Aunt Sue or whoever it is the autonomy to complete the assessment themselves, it's always welcome for you to say, but there's another side to this story, because we know, people tend to fall in 2 buckets. Either they authorize everything and they can't do anything, but really they can do a lot, or they're not capable of doing a lot, but they'll tell you they can. So it's always helpful to have a very close caregiver. And in the absence of that, if you're a caseworker or if you're an associate in the community and you've seen this person, you have a pretty good insight into their situation, your input is also welcome. The referral forms, I believe, are in the packet for level 1. Yes. So you have that. We do ask that you please make sure you tell the individual that you have referred them, because we get the referral and then we'll call and they're like, I don't know what this is about, or who are you and why are you calling me? Sometimes people can be forgetful, but it does help if you let us know, and if you do let the individual know that you have made that referral. Okay, so we're going to jump backwards just to make sure you're all awake this Monday morning. We're going to go back to the bottom of page 18, which is, the bottom of page 6, which is slide number 18. Franny's ready to kill me over there. You're doing such a good job, Franny. All right, so we're going to jump into talking about our triage process. So I'm going to ask Tiffany to come up. Wait, I asked Patti to introduce her team and she had to leave, but since she had to leave, I'll introduce her team. You met Lisa Anderson, and we have Emily Bowers-Colgate, who is with the guardianship program and does some waiver work as well. Barb Herget, who is our supports planner. Ashley Yost, who is also guardianship. Did I miss anybody on that team? Okay, all right. So we're going to jump into talking about what happens when someone calls our office. So you have a sense of how calls are fielded and how they move through the office, and also so that you can share that with your clients. Make sure you're close to the mic.
Hello, everybody. So the triage process, most often it starts with a phone call. It's usually either the client or a family member or friend, someone who's concerned about them. And we also get referrals from community partners using a referral form that we will get to in a little bit. So when the call comes in, it comes to our triage navigator, which is most often myself. And if they're just calling about information, I usually just answer the question as best I can. If I can refer them to another agency, I will do that. If they are calling with concerns about a specific client, then I'm going to get as much information as I can about that client and what their current situation is. Once I've gathered as much as I can, I will then be making a referral to someone, usually in our office, but often it can be outside. I'm most commonly referring to the case management department, and I occasionally am referring to our long-term care ombudsman, Sharon Miller, and sometimes, like I said, referring outside of the agency, like to Community Action Agency, and various programs. I will also, if someone needs like applications or any like simple information that I can email them or put in the mail to them, I will do that as well. So then when we refer in-house to case managers, our case managers try to get to the calls as quickly as they can to return them. I have found that clients are thrilled by the fact that they are speaking to a human. It's not common. So we try to keep the flow moving as best we can. The case managers will determine if there's a program in-house that we can get the person involved in, like the senior care program. And if not that, then there's the National Family Caregiver Support Program. There's a lot of different programs that we can refer to in-house. And I think that's it.
Tiffany does a fantastic job with triage, and it's great because she has been working in the role of case manager as well, and so she's very familiar with all the things. And So that is a great asset to the folks when they call in. Sometimes when she's not available, we have other people that provide backup, but it's primarily Tiffany doing that work right now. You would be amazed at the things we get calls about. I'm sure you all get a lot of really interesting calls too, but I should add to the list of things we don't do. We don't remove rodents from yards. We don't we don't find people dates. Those are just some of the things we don't do. But you would be surprised at the things we are asked to do. Some of the things I won't tell you because they're not anything you want to hear. So triage primarily starts with a call to the front desk. Sometimes people do walk in. We kind of discourage people from just walking in. We have a sheet that we provide them with and ask them to complete it, and then we'll call them back because it's not likely if someone does just show up that there's going to be anybody available to talk to them, for one, because schedules are very tight. We are serving a lot of people. And also, it's very likely the person won't have brought with them 95% of the things that they need in order for us to move forward with trying to assist them. So please do encourage people to call. And again, we're there 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And we have an after-hours message option that people can leave a message if they want to. We try to respond to individuals within 24 to 48 hours. We'll get a lot of people that call and they'll say, I don't want to leave a message. I already left a message. I called already and no one got back to me. Well, how long did you call? 45 minutes ago. Or, I called this morning. We'll have people that'll call, 5 and 10 times in a day. And all that really serves to do is to back up our phone logs and the phone lines. So it does take a little bit. The other thing is our case managers are regionally assigned, so that works out really well in terms of them knowing the community that they work with very well, the resources immediately available in that community. And we all know different communities have different personalities, so that helps as well. And it also keeps caseworkers from being in Hively race and having to run to Falston, and then they're going back to Aberdeen, and it's just much more efficient for us that way. And we have been able to expand our outreach team significantly in the last year and a half, so we're very happy about that. And you'll get to meet that team in just a couple of minutes. Just some other things I want to mention about outreach services, in addition to the case management, triage, assessment, application assistance, all those things that team does. They also do go out into the community to health fairs and community events, especially in the spring and summer and fall months, and take their table with information out into the community. And they also do community education. One of the things that I think we're most proud of is the development and implementation at our office of the Dementia Live program. Has anybody in the room participated in Dementia Live, either through us or through another organization? Oh, we got to do something about that. Dementia Live is a really wonderful experiential program where individuals, not people with cognitive disorders, not the individuals themselves. It's very disconcerting if you have been diagnosed with a cognitive disorder to participate in this program. But caregivers, professionals who work with folks that are experiencing dementia or cognitive decline, it's a really great opportunity to have an experience of what daily life is for someone with a diagnosis of dementia or cognitive decline. That's a mouthful. We also do Medicare education in the community and health promotion services as well. So we're going to talk a little more about both of those things in just a few minutes. So I'm going to ask Lauren, I think, is coming up to talk about Loan Closet.
Okay, can you hear me? Okay, so the Office on Aging does have a loan closet. We have a limited amount of equipment that we are able to loan out to the community on a need basis. So there is a application that needs to be filled out, and we prefer that the client that needs the equipment or a caregiver be the one to contact us so that we can get the necessary information that we need from them. Some of the items that we have available are like wheelchairs, rollators. I think we have one portable ramp. We have air conditioners. I'm not sure if we have space heaters anymore, but so we do have a couple different things that we can help people with if they need them on a temporary basis. Some of these items require a cash deposit, and it varies based on the item. I don't have the thing in front of me to tell you what it is, but we would let the person know when they called. And you do get that money back, or you do get a portion of that money back when you return the item. We loan out our equipment from our office for a 30-day period, and we let the person know ahead of time for that. So if it's something that someone needs, if they return from the hospital and they just need a wheelchair temporarily, that would be perfect. They can rent it from us, bring it back in 30 days. We do reassess if someone finds that they need it longer than the 30 days. We ask that they call us back and let us know that they will be needing it longer than that, and we might be able to work something out with them. So that is something that we can do. We can look beyond that 30 days. All things are based on whether we have them. So there's an inventory, it's constantly changing. So when someone requests an item, we fill out that application and we make sure that we actually have that item before we promise them to come get it. And we also prefer that people come and get the items from our office. We don't really have a way to like transport these things to people, and we'd probably be running all over the place doing that. So that's for our loan closet. If a person or individual is looking for something on a more permanent basis, because sometimes they need things permanently, there is the Maryland Durable Medical Loan Closet. That program, I believe they refurbish items that are donated. They might even have new items, I'm not 100% sure. And it's free. It's free. You can get free things. Which is better than the donation, So if somebody needs is gonna need a shower chair or a bedside commode or a walker on a permanent basis, they can fill out the application for these things on their website, on the Maryland Department of Aging website, under the Maryland Durable Medical Loan Closet. There is an application for basic DME, which is the canes, the walkers, the shower chairs. And there's also an application for the complex, which includes power wheelchairs, scooters, hospital beds, things like that. The caveat with that program is that you have to arrange a pickup time with them. And I can't remember where it is exactly.
The landfill, Harford County landfill,
Oh, okay, ARC and the landfill, there's two places in Harford County. So the person would have to arrange, after they filled out the application, got approved, they would have to arrange themselves to pick up that equipment. But it is a lifesaver because it is free. So if you can get something that you can have forever for free, that would be the way to go. And I think that's it for that.
Any questions about the loan closet? I do want to mention, at one point in time, pre-COVID, we were much more open to taking donation of equipment than we are now, for obvious reasons. So I would encourage someone, before they come to the office thinking they're going to donate something, which a lot of people do, and we so appreciate that that's on their heart to do that, but they should check with us, because there are times where we just really don't have room for one more shower chair or bedside commode or whatever. So we encourage that if someone is interested in donating things, they check with us before they come in. I do want to mention, at the main office, our loan closet is for older adults only. But the DME program that was mentioned, it's the statewide program, that's anybody of any age. So that's another nice perk about that program. And they have a lot more resources in terms of refurbishing equipment and sanitizing equipment, and they have equipment they buy new through grants or because companies have donated monies. And then they do have refurbished equipment as well. We recently had the budget hearing for Maryland Department of Aging, and there was a gentleman that came to both the House and the Senate hearing on the budget. And I would say he was probably in his mid-50s. and he came to testify on behalf of the DME program. He had been in Ocean City on vacation, and a wave hit him and knocked him down, and he fractured vertebrae in his back, and it left him paralyzed from the waist down with limited movement in his upper body. And so he was in shock trauma for 8 weeks, in a step-down unit for another 8 weeks, and his being able to get out of the hospital was dependent upon him being able to get the right kind of equipment that he needed. He would have been in long-term care permanently otherwise, but he was able to get a motorized Hoyer lift and a motorized wheelchair and regain a lot of his life in his own home because he had access to that equipment. So we very much encourage you to look, or encourage clients to look at that program, because the breadth and depth of the equipment they have available to them is much greater than what we can provide, and it can indeed become life-changing for people. Okay, so we're going to jump into senior care and National Family Caregivers Program, and I'm going to ask Kathy Bond to come up. I want you to savor the vision of Kathy Bond, because she is not only, I told her the other day, you're not only short, but she's also a short timer. Because after 34 years with our office, she's going to be leaving us in June. And so it's like the end of an era. And she's hating me every second of me standing here saying that. I am enjoying saying it. She'll get me later. I don't know how, but she will. All right, so Kathy's going to talk about National Family Caregivers and senior care, but introduce your team.
Okay, I have a great team, and I'm so excited.
Get close to that mic.
I'm loud, remember?
No.
I have a great new team, some new people that maybe you guys haven't talked to yet. There's Brittany Joyner. Okay, she said Forest Hill and Abingdon. And there's Nick. We had to replace Mark somehow, and we got Nick. And Nick has been fantastic. He's had some real trying and difficult cases, and it just goes on and on. And Nick is Aberdeen and Belcamp. And then we have our Margaret. I keep trying to say, I want to call her Meg because I call her Meg, but that's Margaret McGill. And Margaret has Haverty Grace and Churchville. And then there is Lauren Ryder, and Lauren does Bel Air and Darlington Street and Whitehall and those areas. And Tiffany moved into being our triage person, which is really super great because she already knows what the caseworkers do. She knows all the information, and she keeps herself abreast of all the changes and new information. So she's been fantastic, moving a lot of people through triage every day. Every time she comes out to go to someone's office, they're going, because she's coming with all the referrals. And so it's been, everyone's been really excited to have all of the new people on board. And Kim is not here. She was here earlier. She had to leave. But Kim Scott does the Edgewood Joppa area. And we've just been very busy. And Crystal's helping. Where is Crystal today? Are you, not you, Crystal. Crystal Patton, Crystal. I'm sorry. I forgot. I'm sorry. Okay. Well, senior care. Let's go. Senior care is a program for people 65 and over. You want me to do caregivers? Oh, she's got the National Caregiver. Oh, National Caregivers Program. That's one of the programs that helps with the caregivers. Sometimes the program helps with an item, may help with something financial, but it's we administer that program, and we give information to caregivers about all the available services, assistance to caregivers in gaining access to services. We may help them fill out applications and direct them to other programs that will help them with the resources they need, individual counseling. We provide them with the support groups and those kind of pieces of information, caregiver training programs, which when Shar was here, she had quite a few caregiver support training programs. One of those programs is the Dementia Live that we've been doing. Also, our program, National Caregivers, will help with respite care. Sometimes people, the one-time respite is for long-term, like for maybe a week. Sometimes we have caregivers who need surgery, have a procedure, and they don't know what they're going to do with their loved one, so we will offer financial assistance to get that individual into an ALF so that that person can have their procedure and have some time to recuperate. So it may be that we pay half or whatever. It's determined after the individual's been assessed by one of the caseworkers. Sometimes they just need to get away and go on vacation, a family event, and so the respite at an ALF is something that is very beneficial to them. We can't count on vendors coming in and making sure that someone's safe when someone's not there. So we often tell them, when you go out of town, if that person needs a lot of supervision and assistance, we give you the list of ALFs, and you're going to have to call and find one that has a bed open. Some of the ALFs do have a respite bed, so that makes it nice. The caregivers that are eligible are individuals or caregivers who are 18 and older, who provide care to someone 60 years and older, adult family members or informal caregivers that are 18 and older, caring for individuals with Alzheimer's or a related disease, any type of dementia or cognitive deficits. Grandparents and other relatives that are 55 and older, providing care to children under the age of 18. So that's our grandparents caregiver program. So we do offer assistance to grandparents under the caregivers program. We have quite a few grandparents. I think you'd be amazed at the number of grandparents caring for grandchildren who have guardianship and custody and are in need of some assistance. Help with buying school supplies and helping them get into school and backpacks. And it's a lot of money, clothing to start the school year. We have a grandmother who has 7 and 1 on the way grandchildren that we helped her get all of the supplies for the ones who are in school. They range in age from 1-year-old to 17 years old. And she recently found out that her daughter's going to have an 8th child, and the daughter does not have custody of any of them. So we have been a support to her. So those are the things, and the caseworkers, if you have referrals for grandparents, just give them our number, and Tiffany will do an intake, and our caseworker will talk to the grandparent and assess for that. Okay, senior care. Senior care is a program for individuals 65 and over. And the program does have income and asset eligibility guidelines. So sometimes people aren't aware of that, but they have changed, and they're pretty high now. Caregiving, the eligibility for an individual is $4,112.50 for an individual. And for a couple, it's $4,700. The asset limit for the individual is $11,000, and the asset limit for a couple is $14,000 in assets. So so not only do they have to have the income eligibility, the ADL, IADL scores do affect whether an individual will be eligible to receive services under senior care. The initial assessment is done by our outreach workers to determine whether the person will be eligible for senior care. The health department does the AIRS assessment, and once the AIRS assessment's been done, if everything is in, or if they're found eligible in all areas, then the individual will go on to our wait list, which right now, folks, we don't really have a wait list at this time. I think we have 3 people who are waiting for services. So we now have, and I don't know how long it'll last, that we'll be able to continue trying to keep the wait list down, but while we're trying to get these people on service. The program offers light chore service for individuals who do not have an able-bodied person in their home or do not live with family members, personal care services, up to 2 days of adult daycare. We have opened that up a little bit for individuals who work and there are no other family members to help. We have given them 3 days of adult daycare so that they can continue to work. We also have financial assistance for incontinence supplies and nutritional supplements. If a person is eligible for senior care, we do also help to provide their durable medical equipment if they need some help with getting a walker or bedside commode or something like that, or rails for their commode. So senior care will help with that as well. So those are things that we can offer under senior care if the individual is eligible. And are there any questions about senior care? Oh, can't hear you.
Yes.
Yes.
If someone receives waiver services through the community pathways or community partners, can they receive these services?
No, you can't double dip. And we're agency of last resort. If people are eligible for MA, the problem lately is that we've been contacted from supports planners and the health department to provide services for people because they're waiting for that waiver, the CFC. I had a call the other day. The lady's already been waiting a year for CFC. And they're not sure when she's going to get service and are asking if we can use our services to provide services. It's getting pretty bad. The wait for the waiver is so long that we're being asked to provide services for people who are waiting for CFC services, waiver services. We still have individuals on senior care who are waiting, who are in the process of getting the waiver, but they haven't, it hasn't reached that point where services start. And so they're sitting there waiting for the waiver. But luckily, right now, because of some funds that we received, we can hold them there right now, but it's getting very difficult because the waiver takes so long, and we're trying to help everybody, and we do try to help if we can. If they're eligible for maybe some caregivers, we can offer that for a short period of time and hope that the waiver, they get the waiver services before that happens. We encourage people to have, when they refer for senior care, please make sure they know that we're calling. A lady interrogated me. She said, "Who told you? Who told you my name?" And she wanted me to tell who referred her. And I said I basically couldn't tell her. But people don't know. They get really upset when we call because sometimes they don't want it. It's what people want for them. So we encourage people to call us. If you can have them call us, it works out a lot better sometimes.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to take a break in just a couple of seconds, but I wanted to just mention a couple of things, because you put these slides together and you feel like you've covered all your bases, and then you're sitting over on the side hearing it, you're thinking, oh, we should have mentioned this. But Kathy just hit on a really good point about our services being services of last resort. So that is true for senior care. That is true for caregivers. That is true for our subsidy program. That is definitely true for guardianship. We're services of last resort in so many different arenas. But one of the things that's happening because of the issues with Medicaid and that backlog is that, as Kathy said, we have people that were holding on senior care who we know, absolutely without a doubt, know should be getting Medicaid services. But because of the backlog and the processing of Medicaid applications and plans of cares and assignment to supports agencies and all the things that are causing those backlogs, we've got people sitting in our state-funded programs who should be sitting in federally funded programs. And that creates a problem for us in the senior care arena because we have limited funding. Now, Kathy mentioned that our wait list is very small right now. Anybody want to venture a guess why the wait list is small? It's not because of demand. It's because once in a million years, something happened and we have a surplus of funding because of COVID. So what happened with COVID was there was federal influx to our agency, not to the county. We got direct funds from the feds through our state agency to all the local offices on aging. And that bolstered our ability to do a lot of things. And those funds ran along the lines of, remember I talked about Medicare Part A, Part B, Part C? Well, our federal funding falls into buckets like that too. There's Title 3A, 3B, 3C, 3D, 3E, and a couple of other things. But the money follows along those lines. So 3B is where a lot of our caregiver supports and our office staff are paid for that provide all the outreach services. It also is invested in senior centers in a different way. But because we had additional funds to spend, we were able to provide services for a lot more people and eliminate that wait list. But guess what, folks? COVID's in the rear view. And so this is going to become not our norm again, because we're getting to the point where those funds, the funds are actually gone, but because we were able to spend those federal funds first, we were able to carry over our state funds. So we're still a little bit riding that high of having a little more money in our pockets to spend on these services, but it will not last. And one of the current concerns that we have, a lovely thing happened during legislation last year. And that was that our legislative decision makers had heard us as a network of area agencies across the state. We try to be very vocal about our needs to the legislature and let them know that we have these wait lists in things like our subsidy program and in senior care, and that people flounder on that wait list. It's not unusual for us to, in normal times, to have somebody progress beyond the need for senior care while they're on that wait list, which is a very sad thing to happen. especially, you've got the trickle down, the waiver not moving, so then you've got, those folks as well, sort of, stuck. But one of the things that happened was we repeatedly were talking to legislative, senators and delegates, and our state office talking to them as well about our wait lists. And so they decided they were going to help us. And so they provided us with a huge influx of money, but for 1 year. That doesn't help with this program or with subsidy, because we see those as a subscription service or an investment program. we're not going to give people senior care services or subsidy and then tell them, sorry, you're done now, because they become dependent upon those programs. And so when we put somebody on these services, it's a long-term investment for us until their circumstances change to the point where we can't meet their needs anymore, or maybe they leave the county or leave the state, or maybe unfortunately they pass away or they end up in a nursing facility or assisted living. And we can't provide those services across, we can't provide enough services to keep everybody at home. Some of our services, there is crossover, like you can be on subsidy and you can get some senior care services, but it was great. It was a great idea, but it really didn't help us. And it's the first time I'll ever say, fortunately, we didn't get as much funding as some jurisdictions, because we have jurisdictions that have a senior care budget of $100,000 who receive $600,000. So what do you do with that in a situation where you don't want to put people on services and then take them off? But we're looking at it as a win, because it rose to the level of attention where people who have a decision-making authority about funds tried to do something. So we're continuing to keep our foot on the gas there about letting elected officials know about this need, because it is a tremendous need. And it does do a lot of good for people in the community to be able to age in place, which is really what we all want.
We do level ones for all the people who come in for senior care, so that they're already on that wait list for the waiver. So whenever we get a senior care referral, we do a level one screening. And we're screening individuals 55 and older in outreach. So we try to make sure that anybody who is at risk of going into a nursing home or assisted living is on that. It does get a level one screen.
And the other thing I wanted to clarify, just to repeat, just in case you didn't catch it, senior care is basically a service that once we put somebody on services, we expect to be able to keep them on services. People should know that when we call them, we are going to ask for their financial records. So it's really important to tell them that before you refer them, because a lot of people are anxious about doing that. But it is a requirement. We don't have a choice. It's a state requirement for the program. And then, as Kathy mentioned, it's a financial need tied with a functional need. So we're looking at their activities of daily living, their individual activities of daily living, and that assessment is cursively done by our staff, but then the health department, our wonderful partners at the health department, do their evaluation, and that helps us determine, those two things together help us determine the person's need and where they might fall on the wait list. The only other thing I wanted to mention before we go to a break is that caregiver is sort of a one-time to the well program. So people just can't come back time after time after time to caregivers because the funding is very limited. If they have a follow-up need, we will look at it, but we also have to consider the people who haven't had the benefit of the program before we consider people who have come back. I think if people come back and it's been 5 years or whatever, we would look at that a little more differently. But it is not, you can't just keep coming back to caregivers for services. It's not that kind of program because, again, it's a limited pot of money. Okay, so we're going to talk next about our long-term care ombudsman program. And Sharon Miller, I forgot, she was going to introduce herself. The woman who needs no introduction. Sharon Miller is a long-term care ombudsman, and she's going to talk about that program, the services provided, and the work that she does. Get close to the mic, too.
Hi everybody, I'm Sharon and I am the Harford County Long-Term Care Ombudsman. So what that means is I just handle complaints and concerns for those living in assisted living or nursing home. Sometimes I get people that think I'm a Medicare ombudsman or home health ombudsman or a ombudsman in senior apartments, or I just tackle the long-term care aspect of it. There are approximately 50 assisted livings in Harford County, give or take. There's a lot of teeny tiny ones and then larger ones. So a lot of variance with the assisted livings. And then there are 6 nursing homes. So what the long-term care ombudsman does is it's a federally mandated program under the Older Americans Act. So no matter where you go in the country, you can find a long-term care ombudsman. We are responsible for advocating for those that are living in these homes, and we do so by just like monitoring visits or like friendly visits, kind of just touching in and talking to people so they get to know who we are, talking with staff so they kind of know who we are, because we don't want to just go out there if there's a complaint. You know, we want them to get to know us and feel comfortable with talking with us. We also take calls from the community, like families living in the community and have questions about long-term care, how to finance it, what's available, what's a better place, what should I be looking for. And then we also tackle complaints. So a lot of times they might come in through the phone. Residents themselves will call, especially if they know me. And then family members or someone from the community, they have someone that's living there, or, it varies. I mean, it can be really anybody. So what I do with that information is I take it and explain that, if it's an outside person, not the resident themselves, I explain that what I have to do is go and assess the resident, and even if maybe they have dementia, I still have to go and kind of see what I can gather from them. Like, are they able to give me any type of consent? Because we're consent driven. Like, I will not speak on behalf of somebody unless I have consent, because there is a fear of retaliation. So you have to be aware of that and honor their wishes. So we are consent driven. Sometimes we might be able to do like an ombudsman generated complaint if it's like a general complaint, maybe about the facility that isn't specific to one person. Staffing is, of course, like my number one complaint, generally. Lack of staffing, agency staff. I mean, it always was a concern, but ever since COVID, it's gotten a lot worse. So it's frustrating. And then also the ombudsman, I'm not the state, I'm not a regulatory body, so I can't give a facility a deficiency. So if there's something that rises to the level where I think it needs to be referred, I will refer it to the Office of Healthcare Quality. They're the agency that licenses them, and they can give deficiencies. So really, I think the purpose of the ombudsman is we can get in there a lot quicker than the state, and just sort of maybe like a go-between, someone that can help try to get issues resolved before it goes to the level of needing the state involvement. And a lot of, like I said, staffing's the main complaint, but then some other things that could be just resident rights. They're calling my son and I don't want them to. The food in here is terrible. The staff is mean. And I do get that complaint a lot, like especially with these agency staff in there. They have like, it's almost like they have no, I don't know what the word for it is. Compassion or commitment, because they're just kind of in there. They're not really committed to the facility. So I do hear residents say that a lot. Environmental problems, abuse I don't get that too often, knock on wood. I have gone out with like APS on some like the assisted living complaints, which is nice when we go together. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything. I think I tackled everything. Did anybody have any questions about the ombudsman program? No? Okay, thank you.
I think we're seeing across the board that service provision to older adults and vulnerable adults has gotten more and more challenging since COVID. I know that there is, most of the senior serving organizations that we see home health agencies, which we contract with for senior care because we provide those services through contracts. The assisted living facilities and nursing homes, it's very hard to find staff and to keep staff. And, people who may not invest as much professionally know that if they lose that job, there's another one right around the bend for them. So it makes it very challenging for the entities, the organizations, the smaller mom and pop assisted living facilities and the larger ones as well, and the nursing homes to really keep good quality care, which is just frustrating for everybody. Okay, we're going to talk now about guardianship. I'm going to ask Emily to come up, and she's going to provide you with a quick overview of the guardianship program.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to say thank you for still being present with us. I've worked with the Office on Aging for 8 years, and my head is swimming right now. So just want to thank you for being here today and taking everything in. With the Office on Aging, we have this whole spectrum of stuff, as you see. And on the one end, we have the senior centers and keeping people engaged in the community. That moves through our case management and the waiver, and guardianship is the other bookend. So I know people here have various experience with the guardianship. I just want to give a couple brief definitions just so we all have the same jump-off point. One is power of attorney versus guardianship. So you have the person at the center of everything that's going on. Power of attorney is when this individual chose somebody to be their decision maker. And that happened before they lost the mental capacity to make their decisions. So that's power of attorney. Then if that didn't happen and they reach this point, we get into guardianship. That's where the court picks who's going to be the decision maker. Now within that, there's two different options. Private guardianship, which is where the court does appoint a family member or friend or somebody who knew them before they lost capacity, or public guardianship, and that's what we do. One of the biggest distinctions, especially for those of you that work directly with physicians, with that it is important between public and private because as a public guardian, there's limitations that we have that typically the private guardians don't have, namely withholding a treatment that could sustain life, mostly CPR. So we get a lot of physicians who look to us and think we can change a code status, and that is not accurate, not as a public guardian. There's procedure, which I will not bore you with right now, but we do have to ask the court for certain things. So I just wanted to put that distinction. Another definition would be lack capacity versus deemed incompetent. It's speaking to the same thing, but lack capacity is the medical term, deemed incompetent is the legal term. So I just want to make that distinction. So if somebody is deemed to medically lack capacity, if they are 65 and older and the court deems them incompetent, 65 and older comes to the Office on Aging, and then we have our lovely counterparts at APS who have the 18 to 64 age group. One thing I want to make very clear is we go by a court order, and it's very similar to a physician order and what nurses and clinical staff are able to do within those orders. So if it's not in the court order, we don't have the authority to do that. Let's see. The Office on Aging, we've spoke through a couple of our programs where what we are and what we aren't. Office on Aging is not allowed to file for a guardianship. So somebody can't call our office and be like, hey, I'm concerned about so-and-so. We will refer them, like you need to get an attorney, this is a court process, and we will refer them back to legal counsel because we're not attorneys. And although we can maybe generally educate them on the process, I will always preface that conversation with, I am not an attorney, this is not legal advice. So just to be, if you're encountering somebody that you think guardianship may be appropriate, just to give them a heads up that we're not going to be filing for them. Let's see. So, sorry here. What happens in real time is we get a lot of referrals for people who have been through something medical, usually in the hospital or just come out of the hospital. So the way somebody gets to our program is 2 physicians had to physically lay eyes on that person and assess and deem that they medically do not have capacity. Now, with our age demographic, that's usually because of dementia, but we have had people that had maybe a car accident and had traumatic brain injury or stroke or different things. Because guardianship is so restricting, like we are taking away their civil liberties to make their own healthcare decisions, they go through, there's a whole process and legal things that dictate who needs to be considered a guardian. And the court will want a family member or somebody who knew them before they want us or APS to step in. So as with so many other things, we are the option of last resort. Sort of cut to in terms of what we are typically able to do. With the court order, most of it is as a guardian of person. That means we are in charge of helping them find a safe place to live. We are responsible for their health and well-being 24/7. So that means we are on call 24/7. That also means that we normally have to have them in a facility that has 24/7 staff. We get a lot of hard situations where somebody's in their home, but we can't guarantee their safety in their home. I think we've had 2 situations I can remember in the last 6 years where we did have family trying to take shifts and everything, but eventually they ended up in a facility because it was just a lot. The way the Maryland statute reads about guardianship, it says that we are as responsible over their lives as a parent is over a child. So just to put that in context. So we help them find a safe place to live. We make all of their healthcare decisions. The court gives pretty wide liberty on that, except if there's a situation where we would need to consent to something that might be a risk to life, like a high-risk surgery. Or, as I said earlier, if there is something where we are being asked to not consent or, to withhold a treatment that could be life-sustaining, like CPR. What you guys will see most when we're getting through this process is somebody's filed for guardianship. You will see Patti Brown first. She's the manager of this program. She does a lot of what we call pre-guardianship case management because we are tasked by the state to try to deflect the guardianship, to try to find a lesser restrictive option. Obviously there's cases where that, we are the best option, but we are tasked by the state to find other things. So she'll try to help with case management and maybe help with services in the home. She'll be the one that you see a lot until the day of the hearing, because there is a court hearing. That's how everything is finalized. And then once somebody is actually adjudicated to our program, then Patti will delegate it to either myself or Ashley as a case manager moving forward. So that is pretty much it. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Okay, just a couple of words about guardianship. When I first came to the Office on Aging in 2007, most individuals we ever had in guardianship was about 12. And the majority of those people, maybe 1 or 2 of those people, did not have family members. We sit pretty close to 50 on the regular now. It ebbs and flows. We lose people, we gain people. And we are seeing more often than not, there are family members involved or who have chosen to not be involved or who have been deemed not permissible or safe to be involved. Quite often, those individuals are the contributor to why the person has ended up in guardianship to begin with. So things have changed, and I think it's very reflective of the fact that we have family spread all over the country, all over the world, but also I think that there is a shift, and I'm sure all of you see it as well, of a change in a feeling of responsibility for our elders. And then also just exploitation, financial exploitation is a really big contributor to some of the reasons people find themselves in the guardianship program. And I have to say that I believe that our guardianship team is one of the best in the state. They are professional daughters, and that's truly what we become in this role, is professional daughters to the individuals that they serve. And they take their care of these individuals very much to heart, not just to the point of making sure that they have their basic needs, but also to the extent of making sure they remember holidays and birthdays And if they have the opportunity to get somebody out in the community, that they make sure that they get their favorite peach milkshake or their chicken from Royal Farms. Or they stop at Target and try to calm somebody down when the watch store that was supposed to be in the shopping center isn't there anymore. And then we have a constituent taking pictures and saying that said staff person was doing their Christmas shopping. Not that that ever really happened, but so they do a phenomenal job of caregiving for these individuals. And it's a hard job because we lose these folks. You know, we get them at the end of life and they get attached to them, and it's hard work. So thank you. All right, before I get all misty-eyed, I skipped over subsidy, and I'm sorry. So I'm going to have Lisa come up and talk about the senior assisted living subsidy. So we're going backwards to where are we going? Slide number 35.
Hi, it's me again. So the Senior Assisted Living Subsidy, also known as SALS, or SALGS, is a program that is to help with the cost of care in an assisted living. The cost of care has gone up exponentially, as you can imagine, and affording a assisted living stay can really put a family at financial disadvantage. It's a difficult situation. They want the best care for their family member, but yet they can't afford it. So what do? The subsidy is it's a program by the state of Maryland to assist with that. It gives the family member up to $1,056 in order to pay for that cost of care in an assisted living. It is paid directly to the providers that are on that list. Like Sharon said, there's over 50-ish assisted livings in Harford County. We currently have 15 that have agreed to accept the subsidy on behalf of the clients. There is a financial eligibility. That financial eligibility is $4,350. There is an age minimum. They have to be over the age of 62. And their income, they can't have assets in no more than $20,064. So that does narrow the field a bit, but you would be surprised how many calls we get. The subsidy is a good program, and it has grown. When we first got the subsidy, I think there was, two people? One person, and it exploded overnight. We now currently have in our roster at least 20 people at any given time, which I realize doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. Ashley is the case manager for those folks. I handle the applications and the money and the all of the things, not the money, the financial eligibility. So it is a program that is needed and necessary and is very dear to our hearts. Is there any questions about the subsidy? Great.
Just a note about subsidy, with assisted living costs being $3,200 and up generally right now.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference that has to be made up, and the individual or the family is responsible for making up that difference. And so that's a good chunk of change, especially if somebody meets the financial eligibility for the program. So I've been working on that aspect of this program for a long time, because we get a lot of people that call and they want to apply, but when they find out that they have to make up the balance of that cost, they don't even apply because they know they can't. So this is a great helpmate program but for a really specific individual, most often an individual who has a very low income themselves, but has a family member or family members who can make up the difference in cost. So in a way, we're not serving the most needy, but we are trying to work on that. We're just really happy because the monthly amount used to be $656, $36, something like that. So the fact that it went up was great. And it's also sliding scale, so people, depending upon what their income is, might not get that full amount. So with that said, we're going to jump ahead to slide number 38 on page 13, and I'm going to ask Andrea to come up.
I thought she was going to introduce me, but I guess I have to introduce myself. My goodness. Anyway, my name's Andrea Pamela, and I have been with the Harford County Office on Aging for varying roles since 2007. But one of my roles currently is with the State Health Insurance Program. The State Health Insurance Program is, we assist Medicare beneficiaries, and these can be really anyone on Medicare. So whether they are 65 and older and they are on Medicare for age-related purposes, or whether they're under 65 and they're on Medicare because they have Social Security disability. They're able to call us and we can assist them with their questions and their concerns, help with enrollment, help in getting them prescription plans or applying for Medicaid-based programming that they might be eligible for. We do a lot of education in the community. When I first started in this role, I was only here part-time. Actually, when I first started in the role, I was just here contractually, and we were very limited staff. Everyone was kind of on a part-time basis, and so our goal really was to kind of teach people how to understand insurance on their own so that they could be empowered to make their own decisions and maybe seek out their own resources without our assistance. And so in order to do that, we created a learning library on our website where people could access videos. We could refer them to the videos to be able to watch them and then come back to us with questions, but many times the questions were answered there. Or we went into the community and did group presentations. And it's funny because I think just now, 5 years later, we're starting to see a lot of that come back, especially with community partners, because we get more and more calls of, I have this client, can you help us? So it kind of helped in one regard, but then we kind of serve as a clearinghouse in another regard. I think what makes this SHIP program different from other programs is that we understand the big picture. We can help people navigate all the different pieces. We're not just in one piece of the pie. So we're able to really assist them and refer them out to the agencies they need to go to in a concise way. And so that makes it a little bit easier for them than having to make 75 phone calls. We can just kind of be their one-stop shop. So I know it says eligibility age 60 and over, but really, like I said, it's anybody who's on Medicare, which could be people, of any age, depending on their circumstances. We also help with billing and billing problems. So sometimes we will have people that come, they have billing issues. COVID really has changed a lot of things in the Medicare world. We have a lot of people that are still coming off of that Medicaid expansion because of COVID, so we're getting a lot of questions there. And a lot of people who have varying types of insurances, be it supplements or advantage plans. And so a lot of times people just don't understand the bills. They get things, they don't know if they should pay them, if they even owe the money. So we do have a lot of times when we're assisting people in reading EOBs or just explaining what that bill might be and whether or not they actually needed to pay it, or explaining their insurance, which is a big thing, because it's shocking the number of people that really just truly do not know what their insurance is or what it covers, or they can't even find their insurance cards sometimes. So sometimes it's really just a matter of taking those cards and putting a paper clip on them and being like, see this is what you need when you go to the doctor. And that can be enough sometimes to kind of push them through. We also do the Senior Medicare Patrol program, which is specific for fraud and abuse situations. Again, this for us is just a lot of education to the community, particularly again with COVID. We saw a lot of fraud related things come up that were surrounding health insurance, COVID testing and genetic testing, and especially when the recertification process was happening with Medicaid, a lot of fraud surrounding that, where people were calling and saying that if someone paid them, they'd help them do their recertification paperwork. So for us, it's going into the communities and just educating people on what is fraud. And normally we just tell them two things. Medicare is never going to call you. Social Security is never going to call you. And so if somebody calls and says they're from an agency that seems like it's a federal agency, that usually is a red flag that you should probably, hang up the phone. So we do sometimes get direct referral to our office for those types of cases as well, and we just help people sort of navigate what's going on with that. There are rules surrounding how marketing can happen, particularly during open enrollment. You'll see a lot of brokers or companies going into senior housing complexes, or even in some counties, not necessarily here, going into senior centers and trying to promote their products. But we usually just tell people nobody should come to your home without you giving them permission. Try to limit the information you're giving someone over the telephone. And that type of thing, just so that you're not inadvertently inviting someone to potentially take your information and do something with it. The biggest thing we try to do, like I said, is educate people, empower them to sort of know what they're looking for so that they can be the ones that know that it's not right. And I think nowadays a lot of people are very skeptical. They don't answer the phone if they don't know the number. Most people are not, sort of getting themselves caught up as much. They're at least pretty much unsure that this is for real. And then they'll call us and say, I got this call or something. So we have spent a lot of time going out and educating people on who they should talk to and who they should give their medical information to. I think that's my last slide on that. Yep. Does anybody have any questions about the SHIP program in particular? Okay. So, I'm also in charge of the senior health and wellness programs. We just recently hired a new team of senior health and wellness leaders. And so my team is over here. There's Crystal Morris and Ashley Torres, Christine Kay, and I have a lovely intern from Salisbury, Jahan Hughes. So the 5 of us are in charge of our health and wellness programs, and we are doing things both in the senior centers and also in our senior housing complexes. So just to give you a little background on the program, it was that our health and wellness was mainly concentrated in our senior centers for years, but when we did our vaccine clinics back in 2021 for COVID, one thing that we noticed when we went into the senior housing communities is that while these are independent living facilities, there's definitely a lot of people living there that were sort of flying under the radar. So they're there and they have their, best friend that lives next door, and that person is really helping them get by during the day, but they could probably use some additional supports, and that sort of was a red flag to us when we were out there. So we started really just piecemealed together some programming that we could take out there and just get our faces into the senior housing complexes more. Then that was really our goal. Just get ourselves out so they recognized us and they were comfortable coming to us with other issues. We could recognize things that were going on. And that was back in 2021. I think we started in actually January of 2022 doing a Fresh Conversations program, which was a 6-month nutrition program. And we just went once a month. We fed them lunch and we talked to them about healthy eating. And they told us, all of their fun little stories, and we told them ours. And now Lisa had 15 of them to her house to make a cookbook. So, we definitely have made some good friendships out there with these groups. But we were in 4 sites. We are now in 8. Well, going to be in 8 this spring. And, our biggest goal really is to keep people as healthy and independent as we can by providing them with the education and the resources to be able to make good decisions. And we are seeing our programs grow and grow. In January, we did a kickoff for the 6 sites that we're in, and we based our education on the blue zones, which, is anyone in here familiar with the book, The Blue Zones. Yeah, it's written by Dan Buettner. He's a National Geographic explorer, and he did a research project on these zones around the world, really, where they have a really high population of people that live to be over the age of 100. And so he looked and said, what are all these people doing the same, and how can we teach other people to do these things too? And so it's, you know, it's a lot of what you would think of: eating well, exercising, having a religion. But I think one of the biggest things that they found is that these people are really in community with one another. They have a purpose every day that they're waking up for. There's a reason they're getting out of bed, and they really have like some good relationships. So that really, I think, is what we base a lot of our programming on. How can we bring these people together, get them out of their apartment buildings? They're all in the same building, but how can we bring them out to where they're going to interact with one another, and it gives them something to look forward to. So we have been doing at least once a month programming in these senior housing communities. Starting in April, we'll be there twice a month. We do a little sip and chat before our programs where people can just come down, have a cup of tea, and talk to each other. We have a little prompt for conversation. And every month we're getting more people. We're really excited because we're starting to see more men be part of our programs, which doesn't always happen. So that every time we see a new face, it's pretty exciting. And, you know, word is growing. So we have a lot of energy in our little team. Sometimes we have to contain it a little bit, but for the most part, we're really excited to be there. We also are going to be supporting the senior center programs more, just beefing up what's already there, supporting what's already there, and then bringing in some new things as well so we can help those people. So, you know, a lot of the programs that we talked about today were assisting people, I don't want to say towards the end, but when they need a ton of supports. Our programs are really about assisting people when they're still out there to keep them as active and well as they can, because it's great to live to be 100, but you want to live well to be 100. So that's really what we're here to do, is just help them do that. Any questions about that? Peter?
Andrea, I didn't introduce you because I can't keep up with what your job title is. We keep changing it. We changed it again last week. I can't even remember. So we're going to jump over to our senior center programs now, but I did want to mention, before Suzanne Streeter comes up, that so much of what we do for health promotion in the centers for many, many years, and now in the community, is done through partnership with many of the people who are here in this room, particularly a lot of folks at this table over here, with Vicki Bands and her crew at Upper Chesapeake, with Barry Klein from Healthy Harford. And so we could not do this programming without you. And we greatly appreciate that, because we know we're not experts in everything, and you make it so that we don't have to be by bringing your teams and your knowledge base to the table. And so we greatly appreciate that partnership for all the years that it has been in place, and for hopefully the foreseeable future until you get sick of us and stop answering the phone when we call. But anyway, I'm going to hand it over to Suzanne. We're going to go back to the beginning and kind of talk about where we begin with our intersection with seniors in the community.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. Good morning. So, like Andrea said and Karen just said, the senior centers are really the entry point for people to connect with aging services in the community. So we get people when they are newly retired and they are wondering what to do with all this free time they suddenly have. And our goal is really to provide opportunities for them to become healthy and happy and stay that way for as long as possible, so that they can avoid the services that we provide down the line. We have 4 locations right now: Edgewood, Havre de Grace, McFall, which is in Bel Air, and Fallston. To join the centers is free, and when you join, you can attend any of the 4 centers that we have. Again, what we do and what we don't do. So what we do provide are plenty of opportunities for social interaction, recreation and fitness, nutrition and education programs for citizens age 55 and over. And then we also do referrals to outreach and other agencies as needed. What we do not provide, we are not adult daycare. Sometimes people have a misconception of what a senior center is. We really emphasize activity. If you came into any of our centers today, you would see people taking cardio classes, people taking yoga classes, people playing pickleball. These are active folks. We do have some frailer, older people too who do more social activities, but really it's a very active environment. We also don't provide medical care or supervision. So if you have someone who is maybe on the edge of needing a little assistance in navigating through their day, they are allowed to come with a caregiver, and we encourage that. Next slide. So Harford County's current population is around 263,000, and as you all know, seniors represent the fastest growing segment of this population. Right now, about 17% are 65 and over, and that is a 40% growth from 2000 to 2023. We've been recording members since about 2010. We've had other databases, but we have a solid number that since 2010, over 20,000 individuals have become members of the senior centers. At any given time, however, we have between 4,000 and 5,000 who are actually active. So a lot of those folks have moved on, passed away, moved away. They don't always tell us. Next slide. Okay, so who are these folks? About 35% go to McFall, another 31% go to Falston, about 22% Havre de Grace, and 9% attend our Edgewood Center. Some people wonder why Edgewood is such a smaller percentage. We have a much smaller building in Edgewood. It does not have a full gymnasium capacity like our other centers do, but we do have access to a gymnasium. So next slide, memberships by age range. Most of our members fall in that 69 to 75 range. So they've already retired and they're still active, they're still young enough to wanting to do fitness programs and socializing. But we certainly do have a cohort of older folks too. One of the challenges we have is that we are trying to serve people in that large age range. So people who are 65 want to do something much different perhaps than someone who's 85. And we try to have something for everyone. Our fitness classes and our recreation activities really serve that full range, from a seated basic class to a more challenging class, and different kinds of activities that people in that age range enjoy. Okay, so we offer on average 130 to 150 tuition-based classes across 4 centers, led by over 50 contracted instructors. They are independent contractors. We try to keep those tuitions very reasonable, and most of that tuition money is used to pay those instructors. What that does is it ensures that our instructors keep coming back and provide quality programs. At any given time, we may have about 2,000 people that take classes. Fitness, by far, is the most popular, but we have other things too. We have martial arts, we have dancing, we have art classes. About 3,000 members regularly participate in other daily activities, things like pickleball, which is hugely popular. We have pool rooms in every center. We have card groups, we have quilters, we have basketball players. Chair volleyball is a really popular activity for us. In the summertime, we offer things like bocce ball. We're trying to get a horseshoe and a cornhole group going at McFall. Something that we've added since we came back from COVID is the ability to do online registration. This is something people have been asking for a long time, and now they can register from home. If folks need assistance, they can come into the center and staff are happy to help them. We also now have a touchscreen attendance program so that when they come into the center, they have a membership badge, they can scan it and tell us what they're doing that day, and that has really helped us reduce the data entry that we have to do every day. Andrea touched on this, but we also offer health promotion activities. We do, and again, Karen acknowledged our partner with a hospital. They do monthly screenings for blood pressure, and they always offer an educational program in addition to that. Things like osteoporosis education, cholesterol screenings, flu shots in the fall. We do nutrition education both through handouts and also through a registered dietitian that comes in quarterly. And we are thrilled to have our new health and wellness team that's going to help us expand those programs. We participate in a senior farmer market nutrition program. This is an annual program through the USDA and Maryland Department on Aging where vouchers are provided for fresh produce through the local farmers markets. And the county also supplements that program with some coupons for Harford County farm stands. We also do some support and wellness groups. We have diabetes wellness groups. We have Parkinson's and Parkinson's caregiver support groups. And we're talking to the Alzheimer's Association. We're really hoping to get some dementia caregiver groups going too. We serve a congregate meal at lunchtime, and we serve daily at McFall and Havre de Grace. We serve several times a week at Edgewood and Fallston. We offer lunch every day, but we don't always meet our minimums, so that's why we only serve a couple of times at those other locations. Annually, we provide about 17,000 lunches in the senior centers, and those are all nutritionally approved by a registered dietitian. We also offer something called the Determined Nutrition and Health Risk Assessment, and if people score high, they are eligible for some free counseling with our registered dietitian, which is a great service. And then finally, our staff and volunteers. So the daily ratio of members to staff is about 46 members to a staff person. Sometimes it's much higher when we have a lot going on in the centers. So we are very dependent on volunteers to help us run our operations. We have about 129 volunteers who give us over 7,000 hours a year. So that's the equivalent of over 4 full-time staff for us. So that's significant. If you walk into a senior center, you may see 5 or 6 people behind the counter. 2 of them might be staff, and the rest of them are volunteers. So we very, very much appreciate our volunteers. And that really wraps up the overview of the senior activity centers. What questions do you have for me? All right, thanks very much.
Oh, there's
Oh,
Ashley.
question? Yes.
If a senior isn't able to afford the tuition,
Mhm.
is there a sponsorship that you do at the senior centers for classes?
Yeah, so the question is, if someone is unable to afford the tuition for a class, do we have a support program? And yes, we do. Thanks for asking. So we make a certain number of dollars available for a scholarship fund, and people are eligible to take up to 1 free class every 10 weeks.
Any other questions? Oh, Emily.
Yes, Emily?
Does the golden age group still meet in the senior centers?
The Golden Age group is based in Aberdeen, and they actually meet at the Aberdeen Parks and Rec building. We do have a large senior group in Havre de Grace called the Young at Heart, and they are going strong. They're a large group of people who, many are born and raised in Havre de Grace, have known each other their entire lives, and they meet once a week. They have a business meeting. They share, prayers and support for each other, and then they have some kind of entertainment or bingo. And they have been meeting faithfully the entire time I've been here, probably 30 plus years in the community. Thanks very much.
Just a couple of things I wanted to mention about the senior centers. Ashley asked the question about class participation if someone is not able to afford a class. I think Suzanne mentioned in the congregate meal program that that's donation-based. We're not ever going to turn somebody away because they can't afford to pay for a meal. For many of our folks, that might be the only meal that's a real meal they get all day. And often it is mostly it is a hot meal. And it's nice because they have the opportunity to sit down and eat a meal with friends and socialize some, which is really how senior centers got started in this country. I want to emphasize the nutritional risk assessments that are done, because they're done not only in the senior center, they're also done in all our senior housing-based program, which include, we didn't talk about this, but we have 4 buildings that are getting box lunches. 5. So that's something we started during COVID, and working with our caterer that provides the meals for our congregate meals for our senior centers. They were not doing business because there were no senior centers opened, and so in an effort to kind of provide them with something to keep them afloat so they were still there for us on the other side of COVID, and also to address the fact that people weren't able to get to the centers for meals, we started doing a box lunch delivery to 5 subsidized senior housing sites. So that's another thing that we're doing in the community. And anybody that participates in either a home delivered meal, because we also do contract with Meals on Wheels of Central Maryland for low income people, they can, anyone that's interested can contact Meals on Wheels, and they will assess them to see if they're eligible for support for the cost of their meals through our office. But even if they're not, they can still contact Meals on Wheels. That's a frozen meal delivery. So anybody that's participating in our home delivered meal program, whether it be through Meals on Wheels or through our box lunch program, or participating in a senior housing health promotion program, or getting a congregate meal in a senior center, really all the members, I believe, do the NRA, nutritional risk assessment. Just to qualify. And it's a resource that's really underutilized in terms of those folks who do score poorly on that, because they do have access to our RD to do some education and counseling with them. And we are beginning to get more takers. And our RD is doing a lot of assistance in programming and expanding what she does. So it is a really good resource. Nutritional concerns are a big contributor to longevity issues and contributor to health concerns. It's kind of a no-brainer, but it's a nice resource that we have available to people. I also wanted to mention why, we have so many fitness classes that we offer, and so what's the difference between what we offer and what the fitness clubs in the community might offer? Well, one, I think we're a much better deal financially. I think we're a much cheaper deal. But the big difference is that you're taking a class, if you're participating, with people who are more like you. You're not taking a class with an 18-year-old, a 26-year-old, and our instructors are really well versed in pairing their classes or matching their classes to their audience. But I will tell you, go and watch a cardio class from the hallway and you will be tired just watching. So it's not pared down to the point where it's not a challenge, but there are so many, we have instructors that offer a huge variety, but also there's a little bit something for everybody. You can take a yoga class or you can take a chair yoga class. And we also have evidence-based programming that we partner with Upper Chesapeake to provide. And those programs have separate funding, but they're programs that have had research done to prove their effectiveness. And they're usually longer programs, more intense programs. And we have both programs that are more educational in nature, and then we have classes that are doing and educational in nature. So we have a pretty big offering of those programs as well. Our goal is really in the senior centers to keep people at the level they are and to improve that, to make them healthier and weller than they were when they walked in the door, to offer them challenges in terms of their health. But if that isn't the way things go, our senior center folks are very connected to main office folks, and when we start to see a concern, it'll be addressed with the member and often referred to the main office, because there are times when we can support the individual to the point where maybe they weren't able to stay in the center every day because of change in their needs. but then we give them some supports, and main office is able to connect them with some resources, and they can return to the center, which is great. But sometimes that's not the case, and then we can offer other resources and supports to connect that family and the individual to the next level of whatever it is they need. So with that, I want to thank you all for being a fantastic audience and for joining us. I want to thank all of you who are partners in any way, shape, or form that helps us do what we do, more of what we do, and do what we do better. I don't think there's anybody in this room who has escaped being in that category in one way, shape, or form. I want to thank the staff from the Office on Aging, because you guys are the best. You are phenomenal. You're fantastic. And you are dedicated to doing what you do every day, and I appreciate you so much. And I also want to thank some people we didn't get a chance to thank yet. Over there, I called you Oz earlier before. Don't look behind the green curtain. But if you do, you'll see Francine Schott, and Franny and Angel in the back and Sarah are the people that have made sure you got registered and got flyers and got breakfast and got binders and handouts. So thank you, ladies, for all your hard work. And with that, our first session of TLC is over. First of many more to come. Next month, we'll have Adult Protective Services presenting. In the future, you can look forward to a very comprehensive overview of Medicaid, presentation on housing that will include, hopefully, a piece from Habitat to talk about their home repair program, also from the health department to talk about Healthy Happy Homes, Healthy Harford to talk about their food insecurity programs that they've been doing, and the other work of Healthy Harford. Transportation services, what are some of the other things? All the things we'll be talking about in the future. If we have not reached out to you and you're interested in participating in a future presentation, please let me know. I also wanted to mention, we were talking about guardianship, and it occurred to me that, and we probably need to do a presentation about advanced planning. We have partnered with a lot of people in the community. Barry has come and done advanced planning programs with us, and we also have a partnership with the Bar Foundation. We will email to all of you who have signed up today the information on the Decisions That Determine Your Destiny program. That's a partnership that we initially created. We had some grant funds, and then when the grant funds ran out, Bar Foundation sort of took the ball and ran with it. And we're getting back in the swing of things with that, but it's a great program where attorneys come and talk about the importance of power of attorney and advanced planning and advanced directives and living wills and all of those pieces and what a mulch form is. They provide an overview, and anyone can come to that, because truly, if you are age 18 and older, this is something that should be in place. Most people, if I ask right now how many of you have power of attorney or advanced directive, I would probably see some hands that don't go up. And we all think that we won't ever need to be concerned about that. But these are documents that speak for you if you cannot, to your wishes. And so those sessions start in April again, Suzanne?
Yes.
And then they're not again. There's McFall is in April, and then the rest are in the fall. So. Right. So if someone comes to the first session, this is all free. You come to the first session. If you attend the first session, you have the opportunity to meet with an attorney pro bono for like 10 to 15 minutes to help you with documents. So this is a free service, and we will send out the flyer to everybody so that you're aware of when those dates are. Are we just serving seniors, or can anybody of any age come since it's in the senior center? I can't remember. Okay, all right. But anybody can come and get the information and share it with the younger folks in your life. So we'll make sure that gets out to you. And then we'll be back here next month, third Monday, 9 to 12, same place, different station. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you making time on your Monday morning for us, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Take care, and we'll see you next time.